That sentence still feels unreal when I say it out loud. Sometimes I whisper it to myself while washing dishes, as if trying to test whether it really happened, whether I really stood there, in a white hall full of flowers, watching the man I once called my husband slide a ring onto another woman's finger. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just slipped my hand into my purse, felt the weight of our old wedding bands resting in my palm, and walked away before anyone could see me break. But stories like mine don't start with drama. They start quietly, with the sound of a kettle boiling, a husband's voice calling from another room, the hum of a life you think you understand. I used to think happiness was built on routine. Every morning, I woke up before the alarm, 6:15 sharp. I'd make tea with 2 spoons of sugar for me, none for him. He said sugar made him feel sluggish. We'd sit together at the small table by the kitchen window, the one that caught the soft orange light in winter. His name was Daniel. We'd been married 12 years, not perfect, but steady. We'd moved into a modest 2-story house in the suburbs, close enough to the city for his office job and far enough for quiet evenings. Daniel wasn't a romantic man. He didn't bring flowers or write notes, but he'd fix a leaky faucet before I even noticed it was dripping. He'd say, "Love is in the small things, Sarah." I believed him. Most days, I worked from home bookkeeping for a few local shops. My world was small, but it felt safe. On Fridays, we'd order takeout and sit on the couch watching some mindless series. Sometimes he'd rest his head on my shoulder, and I'd think, we made it through another week. It wasn't passionate or exciting, but it was ours. Or so I thought. It started with a scent. Faint, like a whisper of perfume that didn't belong to me. Not on his collar, but in the car. Something floral, sharp, expensive. I mentioned it casually once. "Someone at work must wear a strong perfume," he said, not looking up from his phone. His tone was even dismissive. I let it go. Then came the late nights. He'd say there was a new client, a demanding one. "You know how it is in finance," he said, laughing it off. But Daniel wasn't the type to joke much, and lately, he'd started avoiding eye contact. When I asked him how his day was, he'd give short answers. His warmth, the quiet stability I once loved, began to cool. It wasn't dramatic. It was slow. Like a candle burning lower each day, until you don't realize you're sitting in the dark. One evening, while clearing the laundry, I found a crumpled restaurant receipt in his jacket pocket. 2 meals, a bottle of wine, a date and time that didn't match his late work night. I stared at it for a long time. I could have confronted him right there, but I didn't. Instead, I folded it carefully, placed it back where I found it, and told myself maybe he'd had dinner with a client. That's how denial works. It dresses itself as understanding. A week later, I caught him standing on the porch in the rain, talking on the phone. He didn't see me. His voice was softer than I'd ever heard it, tender, almost shy. "I'll handle it soon," he said. "Just be patient, okay? I promise. You deserve better than this." Then silence. He listened, smiled faintly. "Yeah, I love you too." My stomach twisted. I didn't move. I just watched through the thin curtains as he ended the call, exhaled, and walked back inside, brushing rain off his sleeves as if nothing happened. That night, he crawled into bed beside me, smelling faintly of wet grass and guilt. I turned to face the wall and said nothing. For weeks, I lived half awake. I smiled when I had to, worked when I could, but inside I felt like a cracked vase, holding water, pretending not to leak. Then one afternoon, while Daniel was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally, I respected his privacy, but that word had already lost meaning. The screen lit up with a message. "Tomorrow's fitting went perfectly. I can't believe it's really happening, Danny." My hands went cold. I opened the thread. I wish I could say I hesitated, but I didn't. Curiosity isn't the right word. It was survival. There were weeks of messages, pictures of dresses, cakes, rings, plans, and one message that made my chest tighten until I could barely breathe. "I can't wait to finally call you my husband, for real this time, for real." I scrolled until my vision blurred. He hadn't just been seeing someone. He was planning a wedding. Ours wasn't even over. My mind replayed every ordinary moment, the breakfasts, the quiet evenings, and they all felt poisoned. When he stepped out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, I was still sitting on the bed, his phone in my hand. He froze. "Sarah," he said quietly, water dripping onto the carpet. "Please don't make this harder than it needs to be." I remember every word that followed, clear as glass. "Harder," I whispered. "You're marrying someone else, Daniel. How much harder can it get?" He didn't look ashamed, just tired. "We haven't been happy in years. You know that. I tried to tell you, but you never listen. She makes me feel alive again." Alive. That word burned. He said he was sorry, but not in the way people mean it. It was the kind of sorry that says, "I wish you'd take this better so I could leave cleanly." Then he said the sentence that would echo for months. "You can't leave right now. It'll make things messy. Let's just handle it quietly. You can't leave." Like I was a thing to be stored until he was ready to discard it. That night, I didn't cry. I just sat in the kitchen, staring at the cold cup of tea in front of me. The clock ticked, slow and merciless, until the sky turned pale. I thought about packing a bag, but I didn't. Instead, I made a decision calm/deliberate. If he wanted to play calm, I'd be calmer. If he wanted to hide, I'd let him. And when the day came, I would be there. Not as his wife, but as his witness. The next few weeks moved like a dream, or rather, a long, drawn-out nightmare, where I was conscious, but powerless to stop it. Daniel became careful. His phone was always face down, his clothes freshly laundered before I could touch them. He started humming again, which might sound trivial. But when a man who hasn't hummed in years suddenly does, you know something has changed. I kept my mask steady. I smiled when he spoke to me. I packed his lunch, asked about work, kissed his cheek out of habit. I was the ghost of the wife he used to know, haunting his perfect little lie. At night, when he turned away from me in bed, I would lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if she was awake too, if she knew about me. Then one morning, I got my answer. He left his laptop open on the kitchen counter before rushing off to work. A rare mistake. His email inbox was visible. I didn't even have to look for it. The subject line read, "Final confirmation, wedding ceremony, Saturday 4 p.m. I clicked. The venue was only 20 minutes from our home. My home. There was a photo attachment, the setup of the hall, white roses and soft peach drapery. I recognized the name of the wedding planner. She'd arranged ours 12 years ago. I don't know what I felt first: anger, disbelief, or some twisted sense of irony. Maybe all of them at once. I printed the email, folded it neatly, and slipped it into my purse beside my old wedding band. Then I closed the laptop and went on with my day like nothing had happened. That Friday, I cleaned the house thoroughly, polished every surface, folded his clothes, watered the plants. I cooked his favorite dinner, lemon butter, salmon, and mashed potatoes. When he came home, he looked almost nervous, as if he expected a scene. Instead, I smiled. "Dinner's ready," I said. He sat down slowly, studying me. "You're not calm," he said, cautious. "Should I not be?" I replied lightly, pouring him wine. He nodded, unsure. I watched him eat. The silence stretched, but I held it, serene. It was the kind of calm that frightens men, the quiet before a woman's storm. After dinner, he thanked me. Actually thanked me. Then he said, "I'll be gone most of tomorrow. Business thing." I nodded, of course. I waited until he was asleep that night, then took out my suitcase. I didn't fill it. I only packed what mattered: my mother's locket, some clothes, and our wedding rings. I placed the folded email on top, like an invitation. And the next day, I dressed carefully. Not in black, not in anger. I wore pale blue, the same dress I'd worn on our 5th anniversary, when I still believed in us. I tied my hair up, put on light makeup, and drove to the venue. It was a small church hall, decorated with white roses and ribbons. Guests were milling around, chatting, laughing. I stood by the doorway, unnoticed for a moment, my heart steady. Then I saw him. Daniel, in a navy suit, standing at the altar with a nervous smile. Beside him, the woman younger, maybe early 30s, soft curls pinned with pearls. She looked radiant, hopeful. Our eyes met. For a second, he froze. His face drained of color, but he didn't move. He didn't call security, didn't shout. He just stared. I walked slowly down the aisle. Guests began whispering. The organist stopped playing mid. When I reached him, I held up the small box in my hand, the one with our wedding rings. "You forgot something," I said quietly. His jaw tightened. "Sarah, please, don't." I interrupted him gently. "No, I won't make a scene." I turned to the woman. Her confusion was raw, unfiltered. "I'm Sarah," I said softly. "His wife. We were married 12 years. Gasps rippled through the room. She looked at him, eyes wide with shock. "Is she serious?" Daniel's mouth opened, closed. He stammered something about separation, about paperwork, but the words tangled in his throat. I didn't wait for him to finish. I placed the small velvet box on the altar. Between them, "These belong to him," I said. "They were a promise once. Maybe you can melt them down into something new." And then, without another word, I turned and walked out. No tears, no raised voice. Just the sound of my heels on polished wood, echoing through that silent hall. Outside, the sun was bright, painfully so. I slipped the printed email into a nearby trash bin, like shedding old skin. Then I exhaled for the first time in weeks. That breath felt like freedom. When I got home, I didn't pack the rest of my things. I just sat on the couch, looking around the house that once felt warm. Every photo on the walls, every coffee stain on the table, they all told a story that no longer belonged to me. So I did what I should have done long ago. I picked up my phone and called a locksmith. By evening, Daniel's key no longer fit the door. He came by the next morning, of course. He knocked, shouted my name, even tried guilt. "Sarah, open the door. You're being unreasonable." I stayed silent. Then he said the same words again, the ones that had once broken me. "You can't just leave." I walked to the window, looked down at him, and said quietly, "Watch me." He left after that. And for the first time in months, the house felt peaceful. Empty, yes, but peacefully so. I brewed tea, sat by the window, and watched the world outside move on. People walking dogs, kids riding bikes, the hum of normal life. I realized how much I'd missed it, the quietness of my own company. Later that week, I met with a lawyer. She was kind, efficient, and didn't pity me. "You have every right to move forward," she said, sliding the paperwork across the table. Signing my name on those divorce papers didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a release. In the days that followed, I donated half of Daniel's things, repainted the bedroom walls, and planted lavender by the front steps. The scent filled the air, cleansing it somehow. I didn't tell many people what happened. Some found out. Of course, word travels fast in quiet neighborhoods. The sympathy was polite but distant, and that was fine with me. I didn't need pity. I needed peace. And slowly, peace came. It came in the mornings when the sunlight spilled through clean curtains. It came in the quiet of evenings when I cooked for one and found it was enough. It came in small victories, fixing the leaky faucet myself, repainting old furniture, rediscovering who I was without him. For 12 years, I had been part of us. Now, I was simply me. It's strange how silence spreads faster than noise. After the wedding incident, I thought it would all just disappear, that he'd move on, get married quietly somewhere else, and I'd fade into the background of his story. But small towns have long memories, and gossip travels faster than forgiveness. By Monday, the whispers had already begun. My friend Melissa called first, hesitant, gentle. "Sarah," she said, "I don't mean to pry, but did Daniel really try to marry someone else?" People at the cafe are saying, "Yes," I said simply. "He did." She went quiet for a long time. Then, softly, "Good for you, for walking away." Her words shouldn't have meant much, but they did. They were the first time someone saw me, not just the wreckage Daniel left behind. Daniel, of course, tried damage control. He posted something on social media about a misunderstanding, about how he and I had been separated for months. The comments filled with confusion and sympathy for him. People always believe the man first. So I said nothing. I didn't post, didn't respond, didn't defend myself. Silence is stronger than any argument. But others spoke for me. Someone who had been at the wedding uploaded a short clip of my confrontation, me walking down the aisle, the stunned crowd, my calm voice saying, "I'm his wife." It went viral within days. Millions of views, thousands of comments. Some called me the calm storm. Others called me the ghost bride. A few said I was cruel, that I humiliated him publicly. But I wasn't cruel, I was honest. And for the first time in 12 years, I didn't hide behind his version of the truth. The aftermath. Daniel came to my door again, this time quieter. No shouting, no pleading. Just a man carrying the weight of his choices. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way," he said, voice cracked. I watched him from the threshold. The man who once promised me forever now looked smaller, deflated. "You didn't mean for what to happen?" I asked. "The cheating, the lying, the wedding invitation I wasn't supposed to see." He sighed. "I made mistakes." I smiled faintly. "Mistakes are forgetting an anniversary, Daniel. You built a whole new life behind my back. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." He didn't answer. I think that was the moment he realized I wasn't angry anymore. Anger meant I still cared. I'd gone past anger, into the quiet space where you finally see things as they are. I closed the door gently, leaving him outside. The weeks that followed were slow but steady. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since my 20s. At first, it was just lists, groceries, repairs, errands. Then it became thoughts, small reflections that turned into paragraphs, paragraphs that turned into stories. One night, I posted one of those stories online. It wasn't detailed, just a short reflection about finding strength after betrayal. To my surprise, people responded, hundreds of them, then thousands. Messages poured in from women and men who had gone through similar pain, some silent for years, others still stuck in it. They said my story made them feel less alone. That night, I cried for the first time since the wedding, not from sadness, but from relief. Maybe this was my way out. Not just surviving it, but telling it. The rebirth. Months passed. The leaves turned gold, then fell, then grew again. Seasons changing outside and inside me. My lawyer finalized the divorce. My last name changed back to the one I was born with, and I felt lighter, like I'd returned to someone I used to know. One afternoon, I went back to that church, the same one where I'd walked in and broken his illusion. The doors were open for another event. I didn't go inside, just stood at the entrance, breathing in the faint scent of flowers. It no longer hurt. It no longer haunted. I realized then that healing isn't a single moment. It's 1,000 quiet decisions, choosing not to text back, choosing not to scroll through old photos, choosing to be okay alone. The reflection. People still ask sometimes, "Do you regret it? The way you handled it?" And I always say the same thing. No, I regret trusting him, but I don't regret finding myself after. Because the truth is, that day at the altar wasn't about revenge. It was about closure. Not just for me, but for every woman who's ever been made to feel invisible in her own marriage. For every person told they were crazy for suspecting the truth. For every partner who waited for love that never came back. It was a goodbye, not just to him, but to the version of me that stayed quiet for too long. The epilogue. It's been over a year now. My house is smaller, simpler, and filled with sunlight. I have a cat named Olive who sleeps on my pillow and steals my socks. I laugh easily again. Sometimes, when I see couples holding hands in the park, a small ache flickers, not jealousy, but nostalgia. I hope they make it. I really do. Because love, when it's honest, is still the most beautiful thing in the world. I just learned the hard way that honesty is the part that matters most. Now, people know me as the woman from that video. But I'm more than that. I'm the woman who rebuilt her life from silence, who turned pain into purpose, who walked down an aisle not to be married, but to be free. And every time someone messages me saying, "Your story helped me leave too," I realize that maybe this was never about punishment. Maybe it was about passing the light forward. Because sometimes, the story doesn't end when he leaves. It begins when you finally do. I've come to believe that sometimes, endings don't arrive with thunder. Sometimes, they come quietly, like the moment you realize the house feels peaceful again, or the morning you wake up and don't check your phone first. That's how healing came for me, not all at once, but gently, almost shyly. It's strange, isn't it? How a heart can break wide open and still find its way back to softness. For a long time, I thought strength meant holding on, staying, enduring, proving I could survive whatever he gave me. But I've learned something I wish someone had told me earlier. Sometimes strength is the moment you stop fighting for what hurts you. It's the quiet decision to let go, even when your hands still tremble. When Daniel married her, I thought my story was over. But it turns out, that was just the end of one chapter, and the beginning of another, where I finally chose myself. I still believe in love, but not the kind that hides behind secrets and half-truths. The love I believe in now is gentle, honest, steady, the kind that starts inside you, long before anyone else says your name. If you've ever been lied to, betrayed, or made to feel small, I want you to remember this. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't need permission to start over. And the moment you walk away from what breaks you, that's the moment your new life begins. Because sometimes, walking out of the wrong story is the bravest way to begin the right one. So I'll leave you with this question, my friends. If it were you standing there watching the person you loved promise forever to someone else, would you have stayed silent like I did? Or would you have spoken your truth to it? Tell me in the comments. And if my story touched you, subscribe and stay. Because here, we speak the truths we once whispered. And every story, no matter how painful, deserves to be heard. With love.